Hello YouTubers and fellow guitar players. Welcome once again to the Sleepless Guitar Guide channel. So you guys might have seen my videos on the review of the PRS Silver Sky SE, the Martin Acoustic, and the Positive Grade Spark 40 amp, and also like some beginner lead lessons, right? And if you've seen them and you like them, please do me a favor, click like and subscribe. I really appreciate your support. So today's video is another in the beginner series for the basic skills and knowledge for guitar playing. And today we're going to be talking about picks. So I went to the guitar store the other day and they had like 20 different kinds of picks or more behind the counter, like different thicknesses, different colors, what have you. And you know, I kind of take that for granted because I know what they're for. I've been playing guitar for a while. But it just occurred to me, like beginner guitar players, when you see something like 20 different kinds of picks, you barely know how to play guitar, let alone what the different thicknesses and different kinds of picks are for. So that kind of inspired me to do this video, to talk about like picks and how they matter. So when you first start playing guitar, you might ask, why is this unassuming teardrop shaped plastic has any effect on anything? Why does it matter so much? Well, I'm here to tell you, it actually does. You have to use something to get the sound to come out of your guitar, right? Your fingers, pick. Eddie Van Halen used to use like a drill on stage. I think Jimmy Page used like a bow on stage. But the point is this, anything that comes in contact with your string is going to have an effect on the tone and what you're able to play. And that's why picks matter. And what kind of pick you choose matter. Because sound obviously is important. And what you're able to play with those picks obviously is important. Okay, and I'll get to that. So to demonstrate, I'm going to use a thin pick to strum on my acoustic, and just listen to how it sounds. Do you hear the snappiness when I pick? And you hear that because this pick is really flexible and it's really thin. So when I strum, it gives a little. Well, actually it doesn't give a little, it gives a lot. So that adds to the snappiness, okay? Now, if I use a thicker pick, it's not gonna give at all, okay? So listen. So as you can hear, playing with a thicker pick, there was a little bit more volume, okay, a little bit more power, and I didn't even strum that hard. So if I strum harder, you can even hear a more pronounced volume, okay, when you're using like a thicker pick. And it also doesn't have that snap, okay. So I guess you can say it sounds maybe a little bit duller, not dull, okay, just duller, and yeah. So the obvious thing that you can hear that you know that picks do, different thicknesses of pick, is like the sound. You know, the tone will change, the volume will change, and you know, playing wise, you don't have to use as much power to get loud volume with like a thicker pick. So another thing that picks definitely have an effect on is the playability. So let me explain what that means. Let's say you're using a thinner pick like this one, and you're playing an acoustic guitar, all right? It's perfectly suitable for you to play rhythm. Right? Perfect. Now, if you have to do like a lead line or something like that, that requires you to play a little bit faster and with a little bit of power, and you don't want the pick to bind on the string, you might want to use a thicker pick. Like, if I wanted to do leads with this, with the thinner pick, now, even though I was able to play that, I actually found it a little bit of a struggle because this pick it felt like it was binding on the string because it's so thin, right? It's flexible. Now, if I wanted to play lead on, like, say, an acoustic guitar with thicker strings, right? Using a thicker pick like this, you can see this one hardly bends at all. This might be better for you. This one, I was able to get more power and it didn't bind on the string nearly as much. So that's how picks have an effect on playability. I mean, on an acoustic guitar with thick strings, definitely that's going to matter. You know, well, it matters on any guitar that you play. On an electric too, you have the same limitations depending on which kind of pick that you use. Okay, so that's one thing to keep into consideration too. Is, you know, what guitar you're actually playing on, how thick the strings are, what you're trying to play. You know, like fast runs versus slow runs, rhythm versus lead. That has an effect on the decision you make about which picks to go with. Similarly, for electric guitars, like the Silver Sky SE that I have, with thinner strings, faster playing neck, lower action, of course, pick has an effect as well. Like, for example, I'll do a run with this, the thinner pick, okay? Thinner, definitely binds a little bit. It didn't sound so bad though, to be honest, but now I'm going to use a thicker pick. Yeah, the sweep picking and playing fast is a little bit easier with this pick because, you know, it doesn't bind the string as much. To be honest, it actually didn't sound that bad when I was playing with the thinner one either. But again, a little bit easier to play fast when I'm using a thicker pick. So yeah. So as you can see here, I have picks of like various thicknesses. And by the way, I am not endorsing any of these companies, okay? They just happen to be the brand that I've used for a long time, and they just work for me. You know, the thicknesses are from left to right. Thinnest one, thickest one. And this one, the red one, is like a 0.5 millimeter, and that's the one I use for playing on acoustic and strumming on acoustic, okay? I just love like the snappy, vibrant sound that it gives. Okay, this one is like a 1 millimeter, which I think is pretty versatile for strumming and playing lead. This one I'm not sure actually the material or the thickness. It just happened to be a really cool pick because my buddy Lee made this for for us when we got together in jam when we haven't seen each other for like 25 years or whatever. This one is a 1.14, which again I think is a pretty versatile thickness, and then this one is a 1.5, which I find is best for playing leads. Okay, so yeah, you know, again, there's some guidelines about which thickness and which kind of pick to use in whatever situation, but it's by no means the law or the absolute rule that you don't have to adhere to. You know, they're just guidelines basically. It really does depend on the situation and the tone and playability that, you know, that the situation demands. Okay. To be honest, though, there's really no hard fast rule. It really depends on what sound that you want to come out, so that you can convey a certain feeling that you want, okay? But just know that, just know the effect. Like thinner picks have a little bit more vibrant sound, thicker picks have a little bit more duller sound. And also, the material of what the pick's made out of actually matters. Like, you know, one day I ran into like a metal pick, and out of curiosity, I played that metal pick just to hear what it sounds like. It was probably the most unpleasant thing I've ever heard. It felt like an ice pick went through my ears the second I hit a note. And I'm not saying that's going to have the same effect on everybody, but when I use a metal pick, it sounded absolutely horrible. I would never ever do it again. I mean, there's probably some, you know, situation and like scenarios where you want things to sound that way. Personally, I don't know when that'll be, but like, you know, some of you might like that sound and use it for something. But point is, like, thicknesses and the material, what your pick's made out of, will definitely affect the sound. So having said all that, right, about picks having an effect on tone and playability, sometimes when you're a beginner guitar player, I mean, you just want to focus on like enjoying, you know, learning how to play your favorite songs, AC/DC, Pink Floyd, Van Halen, Wonderwall, you know, whatever. And thinking about pick thickness, it's a killjoy. Sometimes too much of a headache. So if I could travel back in time to when I was like starting to play guitar, I would tell myself to pick the ones that are the most versatile. And I find that like the 1 millimeter pick or the 1.14 millimeter pick are actually a happy medium between a pick that's good for playing like rhythm and then lead, you know, because they're flexible, but not too flexible. And they're hard, but not too hard, you know. Same, see, they flex a little, right? But they don't flex so easily that it will bind on the strings when you're trying to play lead. So yeah, yeah, go get the 1mm, the 1.14. It's a good happy medium for, you know, all the situations, and you can focus on learning your favorite songs, you know, because that's what really it's all about, right? I mean, why learn to play guitar if it's no fun and you have to overthink about things like pick thicknesses and whatever? It's a killjoy. So yeah. So if you enjoyed today's video on picks, please do me a favor, click like and subscribe. I really appreciate your support. And you know, share your experience and comments about, you know, what works for you. I'd love to hear them. And yeah, come back next time for updated content. I thank you guys for viewing. See you later, folks.